this is Chloe here at Inner Whispers. Today I'm doing another review, this time of the Watcher Angel Tarot, with the companion book and the designs by Michelle Belanger and artwork by Jackie Williams. This is an absolutely beautiful deck, and it's also got an amazing companion book which you can see here. It comes in a small box and the book comes separately. You can buy both at the same time, but it isn't a kit per se, and you can buy both items separately. The book itself is fabulous. It gives a wealth of information. I absolutely love the fact that at the start we have information on the creation of the book and the deck, giving the story both of the writer, Michelle Belanger, and also the perspective of the artist, Jackie Williams. And they talk about how they chose models, how they chose which images or which angels and so forth to put for each card. There are also sort of more personal images, and it's just really fascinating stuff. If you like kind of the behind the scenes, the making of, then this book gives you plenty of that. However, it's also a very academic text. It has a section on the tarot as a monomyth, following the ideas of Joseph Campbell. And that's a really interesting read as well. The book would be worth it almost just for that. There's more sort of the Mythos section of it, talking about the Book of Enoch, which is the main location for information about the Watcher Angels, though they are also mentioned in the Bible itself. There's more Mythos, actually giving the story of the Watchers and what happened, so taken from all sorts of different texts or different versions of the same scriptures. It gives a whole load of information and the basic outline of the story so that we can then follow it through the cards in the deck much more clearly. And there's also a very interesting section on tarot history, looking at sort of what has been discovered academically about what the true origins of the esoteric use of the tarot are, and it gave details that I hadn't read elsewhere and was very interesting. And finally, actually getting down to the tarot itself, there's a discussion of the stories in the suits. Unlike in other decks, this particular tarot starts with the suit of Pentacles, which represent the age of establishment, where the Watchers first come down to the world of flesh and begin to build families and homesteads. It then moves to Cups, which represent the golden age of art, architecture, and personal refinement that follows the age of establishment. With the Wands, we have the restless fire in the soul, which leads to invention and experimentation, so the age of discovery. And finally, Swords tell the tragic tale of the age of civil war, where the children of the Watchers rise up against one another, bringing all their strength to bear in bitter battle until they kill one another off. There's more detail than that, obviously, around suits. And also the court cards. This examines different ways of looking at the court cards, their connection, for example, to the Myers-Briggs personality types and her own take, that's Belanger's take on that, their sort of elemental associations. And she also has a section looking at angelic names, which I found really useful because I find different decks and different books give you different names for angels, but saying that they have the same qualities or different qualities and so on. And she really explains why there is such confusion looking at different texts and the fact that they're just not clear, right, original scripture text that we're talking about. So it's quite an academic book in that sense, but very interesting. And if you're not really into all of that, well then the rest of the book gives black and white scans of all the cards with, a description of the image, a meaning, a reverse meaning, and an interpretation. And then when we actually get to the major cards, it also gives a discussion of why the particular angel, which is shown on the card, was chosen for that, as well as an interpretation of the card. But it looks, therefore, at some of the mythos again. And I really like the fact that all of the majors show angels. So it could in some ways be used as an oracle deck in that sense. You could just use the majors and therefore look at which angel's energy you need in your life at the moment. So taking a little look at those majors. I also really like the way that the cards have this sort of window type framing or door type framing inviting us in. And on each card you have the title and then below the name of an angel, the angel that's associated with it, or in some cases a human who interacted with the angels, as is the case of Enoch, who later becomes the Metatron in the World card. As you can see, the artwork is very beautiful, very accomplished, sometimes a little bit eerie. And with the majors, there's perhaps not quite such a broad range of colours, with a few exceptions. I really like the sun card, the idea that the sun is so bright we can only see the silhouette of this angel. And then ending with the Metatron, Enoch raised to an angel. So there's a real balance going on of angels coming down to earth to see what it's like to be human, and also the idea of then a human being transported into angel form, that sense of as above, so below, which is a strong message in this deck. So taking a quick look at the suits, each of the suits has sort of a predominant colour palette, earthy tones for the Pentacles, rich and warm, and all the artwork or in the backgrounds and so on is quite simple and crafty, because this is when the angels are just establishing themselves. Then when we move on to the cups, the colours are predominantly blues and greys, and things are a little bit more formal, elegant, because this is the age of developing things, the age of enlightenment. In the Wands cards, we have a lot of reds, oranges, yellows, fiery passion, and almost a more Greek or Roman feeling to it. And then in the swords, a far more bleak feel as we come into warring, fighting, death, entrapment. I really like what has been done with the court cards. For each of these, the colours still match the colours of the suit, but as well as the title, the Page of Wands, for example here, each one has been given a kind of moniker. So the Page of Wands is the free spirit, the Knight of Wands is the instigator, the Queen of Wands, the guide, the King of Wands, visionary. And so it is with the rest of the court cards. Given that these are cards which many people find quite tricky, it gives us a different kind of understanding of these archetypes. The author also chose to have the knights be some of them feminine and some of them masculine, whereas the pages are more gender neutral and the queens and kings stay within their sort of more traditionally assigned places. But the keywords, I think, help give a different sense of these cards. an interesting take. There are a few cards which, although the deck is mainly Rider-Waite based, a few cards kind of go outside of what I would call the traditional Rider-Waite meanings. For example, the Nine of Pentacles is inheritance, whereas I would associate more with independence or prosperity, and the Ten of Pentacles for me is inheritance. I really like, for example, the Two of Wands being inception and the Three of Wands being development, which is a much clearer differentiation between those two cards than you sometimes find. The Ten of Wands is called stagnation, whereas I often see it more as being about responsibility, burdens, taking on too much. But that's an interesting take as well, and I think the image is very beautiful, so it lends itself to an intuitive reading in any case, as they all do. The Seven of Swords is betrayal, and I see it more as being about lies or trickery rather than necessarily betrayal. And I can also see it in a more positive sense of being about research or sharing ideas. And that's not really opened up by these key words. So if you're not into keywords, you may find those a little bit distracting. Likewise, the Two of Pentacles is integration. It's kind of explained in the book and makes a lot of sense there, but it's not what I would normally have thought of the Two of Pentacles, which I see as more being about balance. So there are some of these differences, but I think that overall they wouldn't hinder in a reading if you are used to just using Rider-Waite type decks, and so long as the keywords don't annoy you, well, if they do, you could always cut them off, I guess. But the images are very full of symbolism, very full of interest, and very readable. There's also the backs are reversible with angel wings and a central sort of circle. So overall, I would say it's a deck that comes highly recommended. The book is absolutely fascinating. The cards are beautifully drawn, and it's very readable and usable. Ending with the World once again. I hope you find this review interesting and useful, and that you come back again soon. In the meantime, please listen to your own inner whispers.